So all the images you're seeing here were generated with Krea 2 Turbo inside ComfyUI. In this video, most of our tests only use 8 steps. We'll break it down through 8 groups of tests. First, we'll look at what kind of image quality it can actually produce with 8-step sampling. Second, we'll compare short prompts and long prompts and see how big the difference really is. Third, we'll test the built-in prompt enhancer and see whether it's just a gimmick or actually useful. Fourth, we'll check whether the same subject can switch into completely different aesthetics. And finally, we'll test more demanding things like complex composition, text rendering, and some high-resolution details. Let's first briefly talk about where this model fits. Krea 2 is an open-source image generation model released by Krea AI. It's quite different from many ordinary text-to-image models, and the biggest difference comes from its positioning. This model emphasizes what they call creative exploration, which means exploration of creativity and aesthetics. It mainly has 2 versions. One is what we call raw, an undistilled base model. The official recommendation is to use it more for model training and fine-tuning. The other one is the turbo model, which is an 8-step distilled version. Its goal is to generate text-to-image results quickly and at high quality. So in this video, we'll mainly focus on the turbo model. Next, let's talk about how to set up the running environment. ComfyUI officially already supports this model, so you just need to update ComfyUI to the latest version. Then, in the new template library, you can search for this model and find the corresponding template. Of course, you can also find the download links for the model and workflow in the official blog. We'll also provide a version for everyone. These workflow versions are essentially the same. Here, we're using the Krea 2 model packaged by Comfy.org. The first one is an FP8 Turbo model. For the text encoder, we use QW3VL, which is a vision language model. The VA uses QW image VAE. Also, pay attention here. The official release includes many style LoRAs. What is a style LoRA? Of course, it's used to generate a specific style. For easier demonstration, I also built the workflow on Running Hub. In the ComfyUI space, Running Hub is a very solid online workflow platform because whenever a new model or a new extension appears, it usually follows up right away. This workflow can roughly be divided into 6 parts. The first part is model loading, which is what we call the 3 core model components: the diffusion model, the text encoder, and the VAE. We've already introduced these models earlier. The second part is resolution. Here there's a node called resolution selector. Pay attention. Its resolution choices are centered around the million pixel level, or you can think of it as around 1024 by 1024. But if you want to create something larger, for example around 2048, it's better to set it separately and not use this component. The third part is prompt input. Here, there's a text string user prompt node, and this is where we actually write the prompt. Then it has 2 routes. Which route should it take? We have a switch node called refine prompt. If you turn it on, it will go through the text generate node. And this node is actually the core of the prompt enhancer. It calls the QW3VL text encoder and expands your short prompt into a more complete image prompt. The fourth part is the style LoRA. This also has a switch. As I mentioned earlier, this is not the main focus of this lesson, but you do need to know how to use it. The fifth part is the text encoder and negative condition. No matter which method you use to generate your prompt, it eventually needs to enter this encoding node clip text encode. That's how the positive prompt is created. For the negative condition, we take a little shortcut as well. We pass it through conditioning zerout to generate a zeroed out negative condition. The sixth part is sampling and decoding. Krea sampler receives the model, the positive condition, the negative condition, and the latent. Since this is a turbo model, CFG is 1, and the step count is 8. For sampling, we use Euler, and the scheduler is simple. After sampling is complete, we decode it. And finally, we get the image. Now let's move into the testing section. For the first test, we'll see whether the turbo model can actually generate high-quality images here. We use a prompt about a late-night ceramic artist. In the scene, there is a young ceramic artist making ceramic artwork in a small studio at midnight. There are a lot of details here. His hands are covered with wet clay. There's a spinning pottery wheel in front of him, a half-finished ceramic bowl, a warm desk lamp beside him, and in the background there are shelves, cups, sketchbooks, brushes, and traces of clay. So overall, the composition is relatively complex. Take a look at the result. To be honest, when I first saw this image, I was really impressed because it feels different from many other models we've seen before. And of course, we shouldn't forget that this was generated in only 8 steps. It already organizes the subject's action, lighting, and environment together, and the overall result should be far beyond many other models. Now that we're talking about prompts, we have to discuss this question. For this model, how big is the difference between using only a short prompt and using a long prompt? Let's do a comparison. Our short prompt is very simple, a fashionable portrait of a person wearing a red coat, cinematic lighting. Actually, the result is not bad. Take a look. Then we replace this with a long prompt. The subject is still the same, a portrait of someone in a red coat. But this time, I add much more specific information, an East Asian woman standing outside an old Art Deco cinema on a rainy night. She is wearing a red wool coat and black leather gloves. Behind her, the cinema emits warm light, reflected on the wet ground. This image has much more storytelling, with a bit of that fashion editorial feeling. The location, lighting, color, and composition all have a clear direction. So here we can summarize a very practical prompt formula. Subject plus action plus scene plus lighting plus color relationship plus composition plus lens plus constraints. Some people may ask, what if I don't know how to write prompts like this? Well, ComfyUI also prepares a prompt generator for you. It uses the QW3VL model to help you write a prompt. Here, let's do a very interesting test. We'll start with a short prompt, a lonely robot in a flower shop. First, we won't use the prompt generator. Let's look at the result. Looking at this image alone, I think it's already pretty good. There's a flower shop, there's a robot, and the sense of loneliness is present. But the emotion is not focused enough. Then we turn on the prompt enhancer. It automatically expands a lot of content. Some people may ask, how does it expand the prompt? At this point, we use something called a system prompt, or what we usually call prompt engineering. Sometimes we write this kind of thing ourselves too. Let me briefly explain how it turns a short prompt into a longer one. The first requirement is that we ask it to stay faithful to the original prompt. Whatever exists in the original prompt must remain there. It should not randomly add new characters, new objects, or new props. Second, we ask it to rewrite the prompt into a structure that is easier for a text-to-image model to understand. Third, we want it to internally think about style, medium, composition, and lighting. But when it outputs the result, it should not write an analysis report, it should not output JSON, and it should not write a list. We want one complete prompt paragraph. There are also some writing habits. For example, if we ask it to write text, that text must be placed inside double quotation marks. This is the same for many models. Fifth, if the user's prompt is already detailed enough, then there is no need to rewrite it heavily. It can just do some light polishing. After turning on the prompt enhancer, we can see that the prompt becomes something like this. The robot has a worn metal body, standing in the center of a quiet flower shop. Surrounded by both wilted and fresh flowers, light enters through the window. The robot's posture looks dejected, and it holds a wilted rose in its hand. You'll notice that the amount of visual information in the image clearly increases. Of course, if you're capable of writing prompts yourself, you can handwrite an optimized version, because honestly, you should believe that prompts written by AI are still not as good as prompts written by a person. For example, we can write the prompt like this: an outdated service robot, sitting on a wooden floor, its body scratched, holding a wilted white rose in its hand. Outside, there is blue evening light behind the counter. A small warm lamp shines onto the robot's face, creating rim light. We also clearly specify that we don't want a cute style and we don't want a cartoon look. Take a look at the result. You can see that the overall atmosphere is better than the one generated by the prompt generator. Next, let's test the stylistic range of this model. In other words, what kinds of image styles can it generate? Here, we first define one subject, a small black cat sitting by a moonlit window, looking at a cup of slightly glowing tea. Then we'll present it in different styles. The first one is realistic photography. Here, we emphasize moonlight, realistic fur, and even describe lens parameters and depth of field. Take a look at the overall feeling. The realism is very strong. For the second one, we use a children's picture book style. Here we use watercolor texture, soft pastel colors, rounded shapes, and a bedtime story atmosphere. For the third image, we use a minimalist flat poster style. So you'll notice the whole image has that silhouette-like feeling. For the fourth image, we use a 3D designer toy style. Here, we emphasize the material, the rounded toy proportions, and the feeling of a product photo shoot in a studio. The conclusion here is very clear. On the same subject, it can explore different aesthetic directions. But in a real workflow, there is another more troublesome problem: complex composition. When there are many things in the image, can the model actually understand your prompt and display everything properly? Here, I designed a rainy night cafe window scene. The prompt is written in spatial order. On the left, there is a blue ceramic bowl and yellow lemons. In the center, there is an open travel notebook and a black fountain pen. On the right, there is a small bottle of olive oil. In the background, there is a barista wearing a linen shirt with some blur applied. Outside the window, there are raindrops, neon reflections, and a deep blue night view. This group is obviously not just for making a pretty image. It's for testing whether the model understands spatial relationships like left, center, right, and background. Judging from the result, it basically works. Finally, let's test text. First, let's test English here. We made an advertisement for a desk lamp. In the upper left corner, the headline says Luma 1. Under the logo, it says Smart Light for Deep Focus. On the right side, there are 3 selling point labels. In the bottom right corner, the price is $129. The overall commercial feeling of this image is there. The layout is clean, and the product also looks like a real technology brand advertisement. But for text tasks, we cannot just look at the atmosphere. We must check the text, and we need to check it word by word. Is the brand name correct? Are any selling points missing? Is the price messed up? Are there any extra fake letters? After testing English, let's look at Chinese here. We use a Chinese poster. Let's look at the result. Well, this one doesn't really need much explanation. Krea 2 is not friendly to Chinese text. Last, let's look at high resolution. As I mentioned earlier, the images we generated just now were generally 1024 by 1024, or some 3 to 4 and 4 to 3 images around the 1024 range. Now let's look at a perfume product image. This topic is very suitable for testing high resolution because it includes transparent glass, liquid refraction, a metal cap, a paper label, flowers, leaves, water droplets, and background blur. In the prompt, we write it very simply: a bottle of handmade perfume with the label saying Morning Rain. I ran it at 2 resolutions. The first is 1024 and the second is 2048. Let's look at the 1024 version first. Looking at this image alone, it's already very beautiful. Then let's look at the 2048 version. The details are richer. Pay special attention to the raindrops on the product cap. They are much more detailed. Finally, let's summarize. Who is Krea 2 Turbo suitable for? I think there are 3 types of people. The first type is anyone who wants to quickly explore aesthetic directions locally in ComfyUI. The second type is anyone who wants to use relatively few steps to quickly create photography, illustrations, product images, and poster concept images. The third type is anyone who is willing to write natural language long prompts instead of relying on random image draws. Alright, that's all for today. Follow me and become someone who truly understands AI.